What's up, you guys? It is Nita with NitasFluidWoodworks, and today I'm gonna show you guys how to make this swipe technique love over hate wall art. Let's get into it. I'm Nita, and I own NitasFluidWoodworks. I'm from Clio, Michigan. So when I started NitasFluidWoodworks, I was really inspired by YouTube videos. I saw this substance, resin. I had no idea what it was. And within about a week, I bought my first resin. It was the worst resin I've ever used, but I made my first piece and it sold. And I made a second piece and it sold. And I gave it a name and a Facebook page, and I just kept making things. So first things first, when you're working on the love over hate sign, I like to give it a background, and it doesn't have to be black, but I'm gonna be using black. So I got this pine round from Menards. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that, or you can make them yourself. So lift your piece up. You can use these little triangles. What I do is I just pour this on and just make sure that you cover your surface. All right, so make sure you get the under edge too, because that is all gonna be seen. So pay attention to the little details. So I think that the little details are what sets good work and great work apart. All right, so now the paint is dry and we're gonna mix up some resin. I like to do the rainbow because this is a love over hate sign. I'm gonna be using True White, True Black, my Cell Magic, and soon I'm gonna be releasing Cell Magic oil based. You're gonna be able to see me use this in this project. When I'm measuring my resin for something like this, I'm going to be overcompensating. Plus, I'm gonna be measuring as if I'm doing a flood coat because we are gonna be flooding this. So it would be 3 ounces per square foot plus a couple more because we're just gonna kind of be knocking resin off the edges, okay? So 3 ounces per square foot for this would be 9 ounces, but we're gonna go probably to about 12, 14. We'll do 400 mLs, okay? Protect your surfaces, make sure you got something down because this is super, super messy. All right, make sure you're protecting your eyes, and I'm gonna put this in some warm water, and that's gonna lower the viscosity. When you lower the viscosity, it just gets easier to work with. You see how thick it is right now? Once it warms up a little bit, it's gonna be a lot more workable. All right, so when you take your cup out of the water, always make sure you get the water off it. You don't want to get water in your resin. And like I said, just try not to let the resin get too warm in the water. So I just use it's not hot, but it is warm. All right, once you got your resin mixed up, I am going to get them into the smaller cups. So you don't need a lot of resin for this part. All right, so we're gonna start with red, and I keep my colors in order so I don't get the wrong order of the rainbow, because my kid would be so mad at me. These neon colors are really, really vibrant. All right, so I'm gonna add a drop of the oil-based Cell Magic in each one of these colors, and then we're gonna set them to the side and cover our surface with a black. So just 1 drop in each of these. Does not take a lot. All right, mix it up one more time. There's a lot of people that hesitate when it comes to working with resin because they're always scared that they're gonna mess up. And I'm here to tell you that you're gonna mess up. There is gonna be mess ups, and it doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how many times you watch a video or watch anything. I've been doing this almost 6 years and I still mess up. It's not about not making mistakes. It's about learning how to fix your mistakes. So don't not do something because you're scared you're gonna mess up. Just do it. And then learn what to do if you do and when you do mess up, because it's gonna happen. Just gonna get this on here, and like I said, this is going to be messy. All right, so get your surface completely saturated. Get your sides so that way it'll drip over. All right, we are good. So when you're doing the swipe technique, personally, I literally take like everything that I get in a resin box and I use everything in there. So even the pamphlet, like the introduction pamphlet that comes with the resin, I actually cut it up into strips. As long as you have that flat edge right there, like this is it's thick and it's good and it works. All right, so I start with the end colors and I actually kind of go like diagonal. So I go red, and then I end with purple. So I'm starting with red and I'm ending with purple, and then I get to kind of see how much color I want as I go. I overlap as I go as well. Like you see how I kind of put a little bit of orange over the red. All right, so over top of this, we're gonna put white, but first we're gonna add some heat, and we're going to do that with a torch because we're not trying to move anything around. We're just trying to warm it up a little bit, get the bubbles off, just kind of run it over as if you were doing a seal coat. All right, I'm gonna add a drop or two in here, and we're just adding a thick enough line so we can swipe both ways. All right, so I'm taking my pamphlet and you just kind of work it. You can start at either end. I like to start kind of in the middle. And when you're swiping, you're taking the white and you're wiping it over. And I do like this little squiggly motion. I apply a little bit of pressure and you just let it do its thing. So as I'm going through the blue, I go down to the purple. And once you get into the purple, you can switch sides. I just let it do its thing because I like when the colors mesh. So you have those, and then it depends on how you cut your paper. So the wider strips are gonna give you wider swipes, right? And I like to pull it out, and I'll show you how all of this ties together. All right, so work your piece until you're happy. And remember, when you come back, it is going to look nothing like you left it. Like once it sets and it does its thing, it's gonna look completely different. All right, so I'm gonna warm this up. So with swiping, you can actually do a little bit of it with the heat gun as well. You can push it over, but you wanna hold your heat gun like this so that way you're just pushing the color over the other colors. Okay? And then I'm spraying some magic over top. Once it starts warming up, you'll see the resin to start move a little bit, and then that's when you spray it. Once you know what a heat gun does, and you know what a torch does, and you know what happens when you do certain things, I feel like that's when you can really kind of like map out your steps when you learn. So just getting in here and getting your hands sticky, with gloves of course, that's gonna give you the knowledge base to do other things. So if you play with the torch on your piece and you notice, like if you hold the torch on here, it will make cells. Like there's ways that you can make things happen. You can make it feather, you can make it do all kinds of things. And this is where I recommend that you just try stuff and have fun. Have fun while you do it. All right, we're gonna let this cure and then we're gonna put some vinyl on it. So when you're first getting into it, you have to have that just basic knowledge of what's going on, what's gonna happen if I put this in here, like what do I do if this happens? And you're really not gonna get that unless you just really start. So I would say make your mistakes where you're willing to have mistakes. Like if you mess somebody's very important stuff up, you can't get that back. Even if you just go up to the corner store, like your grocery store, local grocery store, and grab a bouquet, learn how to dry those flowers. learn how to encapsulate those flowers. What happens if I do this? What if I pour the whole flower? Like, I would suggest trying first and then doing. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna scuff this up. This is 320 grit. You can do 220 grit, and what you're basically doing is you are giving the resin a tooth to bite into. So if you were just gonna pour resin over resin without scuffing it up or anything, you're probably gonna chip. So you want to scuff it up. So you don't have to be super aggressive with it, but you're gonna see that it's gonna take the sheen off your piece. So scuff up your surface and not just the top. I really concentrate on getting these edges as well, because this is where your seal is gonna come in, and if this chips out, then your whole piece is gonna be messed up. So pay attention to your edges. All right, so after you have your piece scuffed up, you're going to wipe it. I use 91% isopropyl alcohol, and the reason being is because it dries super fast. These Duragolds leave like a really fine powder, and sometimes it can get stuck like between these cracks right here. So you're just gonna want to be sure to get that out, because it's gonna be stuck there forever once you flood it. My granny always used to say, the lazy man works the hardest, because you usually gotta go back and fix whatever you messed up. And I found that to be very true. If you just take the time to do stuff right the first time, you don't gotta go back and redo whatever you tried to skip out on and whatever else you have to do to fix it. So we are going to go ahead, get the vinyl on, and then give it a flood coat. So I've already cut the vinyl on the Cricut. Now we're just going to weed it out and get it ready for the Love Over Hate sign.
There we go.
I know you probably see a lot of people do the fancy, very technical ways of doing this, and I am not that girl. I think it's crooked. It is. But we don't care, because it's okay. I don't measure anything, just kind of do it. Okay, so once you started your one side, then, and if there's any bubbles around the edges, that's gonna let resin go underneath it, and once the vinyl gets wet with the resin, it's not gonna stick anymore. Then your last coat, which would be your seal coat, is not gonna be your last coat, and you're gonna have to do another one. So do it right the first time, and you don't have to do it again. If you just peel it back like this, it doesn't lift up the stuff underneath of it. All right, so that's ready for a flood coat. So you're gonna want to make sure that your surface is prepped, and that means protect your surfaces, protect yourself. You're gonna want gloves, and you're gonna want these little painter's triangles to stand this up, so that way the resin can flow over and under. So like I said, protect your surfaces, protect yourself. So we're gonna go up to 300 mLs, because I'd rather have more than less. A lot of people ask me, why do you pour B before A? So if you notice, this is a lot thicker than the one that I just poured, right? A is always thicker than B. So you don't want this thick stuff just sitting in the bottom of your cup. Instead, I put the other one first, and then I let this one drop down through it. And like I said, your stuff is not messed up if you don't do that. Just kind of gives you a leg up on mixing. So I'm gonna show you a couple of things along the way that's gonna show you that your resin is actually mixed. These little iridescent lines. So if you scrape your cup and bring your stick into the middle and you see any iridescent lines, they kind of look like spider webs flying in the wind or something. If you see those, your resin is not mixed, okay? Anytime my girlfriend ever mixes the resin, it always comes out and it's so clear. And I'm like, I should hire you. All right, so once you scrape your edges and you don't see any of those iridescent lines, then you are good. I'm just gonna pour this right in the middle of my piece, and you can see how this looks like super dull. As soon as you pour the resin on there, it's gonna come right back to life. It's going to encase the vinyl in there. So when you're doing your flood coat, what you're gonna do, you're gonna hold your trowel straight up and down. You wanna keep this depth right here, so don't go like this, because that's gonna mess up how tall that is. So self-leveling resin self-levels at 1/8 of an inch, and it's your job to make it 1/8 of an inch. And if you notice, I'm not pushing anything over the edges until I know I have my resin across the surface, because once it starts going over, then it's gonna be going over. And then you're gonna start losing it. Once it's all the way there, then you push it over your edges and let it flow. All right, so just make sure that there are no uncoated pieces. You see how my fingers are making marks and the trowel is making marks? As soon as you hit it with the torch, all of that's gonna level out. So I'm gonna hold this, about 4 or 5 inches away, and I'm gonna slowly go over the surface, and I'm just popping the bubbles. I don't wanna move it around. And always hit your edges. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna come back in about 10 or 15 minutes and see if there's any more surface bubbles, and then we're gonna sand off the drips. A decision that's radically changed my life as just a whole person was the decision to actually give myself a chance. I feel like the life that I lived up to about 7-8 years ago was like, I used drugs and I did crazy stuff, and I don't feel like I gave myself a chance. And making the conscious decision to actually try at life, ever since then, I haven't came to a door that doesn't open. All right, you guys, this thing turned out so freaking sweet. But before we're done, we have to get these drips off. And if you can see right here, these are pretty gnarly drips. So I like to use these little files right here to get those sharp tips off. And you don't gotta do all of them, but just like these really, really big ones, they will rip the heck out of your sander. All right, so I'm just gonna go in with 80 grit and get the drips off, and then we're gonna go to 150. All right, so I'm going to just do some touch up with the black paint to give this a black backing. If you get any of the paint on the side of the resin, it literally just wipes off if you take a paper towel or your finger or something like that. I usually just wipe mine off with a paper towel. All right, so for this piece, it is going to be hung on a wall. And to do that, I just use a D-hook. And that is our piece. This thing is so fly. So the inspiration behind this piece was exactly what I try to teach my kids, is that we do accept everybody here in this household. And I know that anybody that purchases this piece or makes a piece like this has that love and acceptance for everybody as well. So thank you for following me along on this journey. If you want to see anything else like this, or you like resin or woodworking, you can follow me on any one of these platforms. I will see you guys next time.